Okay, let's talk about The Last of Us, the biggest show on HBO to come out in a very long time. It just beat House of the Dragon, which will never not surprise me because that's an established lore. I guess this is too, but this isn't as like mainstream as dragons, right? I guess zombies are popular. I don't know. Why am I surprised by the success of The Last of Us? It's like one of the most popular game franchises of all time. Everyone knows the characters. There's a ton of media about them. Why am I surprised that this did well? I don't know. But it's The Last of Us. HBO, they released it 9 episode season, which is kind of cool. You know, right in like a perfect time to no other content. You can get the boost from people watching the Oscars and the Super Bowl wanting to see something that's not those. So, good time to release this show from the creator of Chernobyl and from the creator of the game. Yeah, like Druckmann was a huge part of the project for this television series, and that's kind of cool to see. The perfect combination of like people coming in, Mazin and Druckmann really just figured out their footing to make this work. Now, here's the thing about The Last of Us on HBO. I have no full connection to the game. I don't own a PlayStation past the second generation. I have a PS2, and that's it. And an old Game Boy. I don't play modern games. I have too much else going on, as you can see behind me. I just don't play them. And I've always just been like, yeah, I should probably play The Last of Us. I know a lot of people say it's a really good game. I have seen all the discourse about The Last of Us Part 2 and the way everyone thinks about that. They look very interesting. I have seen gameplay footage. I have seen some walkthroughs for it, and I'm like, this is kind of interesting. There is something here to explore that feels very authentic to the video game world. And we've seen in recent time, in particular, translating a video game to a live-action series isn't the easiest thing to do. Now, I don't know if I can say this is the best adaptation of a video game. I haven't seen enough to really justify that being what I say. It's probably the most faithful, I'd have to say. Like, scenes and moments are ripped straight out from the game. Literal moments where you can see, oh, this is a loading screen. This is a cutscene. That kind of stuff. That is what you see a lot of in this show. Even moments where it's like, this is where you'd like reload your weapon. This is where we get like exposition dropped. This is the quiet moments that we'd see happen in a game where we have to trek from scene to scene. Let's shove Ellie through a vent and she can unlock a door. That's something that would happen in the game. Let's pick up a dead person's gun. That's something that would happen in the game. That's pretty impressive, you know? So many times when we do this kind of thing, we're like, we need to cut out the parts of it that are video game adjacent and just do the story. You know, that's what other things done, like Assassin's Creed, like Uncharted, like Tomb Raider. You don't have those video game moments. This does, and maybe that's why it works so well, and why it kind of works for a television formula. If we're doing a 2-hour movie of The Last of Us, we would cut out all those small details like that, and it wouldn't make it feel authentic or The Last of Us, which is kind of interesting that it worked that way. I guess it just goes to show you, like, when you have the creator of the game telling this story, he is well aware of what the narrative needs to be. When you have, like, the key part of the story being going into these weird places, climbing over rubble, driving down streets, you need to see that in the show. So that works really well. He was clearly on board for everything the show wanted to do, and it did make it an interesting piece. Like, that is what we're doing here. We are in this wrecked world. That is the point. The point of The Last of Us is not the zombies, which I think is something a lot of people are going to be upset by. But let's talk about the zombies for a minute, because it is kind of important to the story. I am not the biggest supporter of the zombie genre of recent times. I think a good zombie story should be a lot like a good slasher flick. It should be reflective of the era it's taking place in. In a lot of contemporary stories for zombies, they have just been nothingness. I think The Walking Dead is a prime example of, you talked about something at the time, this kind of like fear of global destruction, and you morphed it into something that's uninteresting and in its own ass. But what this show did in particular was two things with the zombies. One, it made them very scary. There is not a moment where an infected creature or a clicker or whatever shows up and there isn't consequences. Whenever there is a death on screen related to a zombie, it is terrifying. It is powerful. Every time one shows up, somebody dies. You feel the weight of them instantly. They're not a massive horde that you can just plow down just walking through the streets. They're terrifying. If one of them comes for you, we see somebody die because of it. There's always a death if there's a zombie, which is a really cool thing this show did. The other thing made it reflective of the times. We go back to 2003 when like the outbreak kind of took place and talk about like, hey, there is a global pandemic potentially on the way due to global warming effects, the way we are polluting the airs, that kind of thing. And then boom, we couldn't stop ourselves from being infected like this. It is a post-pandemic show. I'm sorry, I don't want to get too political on that stuff, but it is a show that can exist better and have a bigger impact in a post-pandemic world when we see what we do to survive in a world that's kind of like moved on from us. It's very fascinating, that aspect. And I think in particular, it would be really hard to do the zombie thing in a post-pandemic world because we've seen the way people act when they are told to do something. There's always that rebellion, and there's like the rebellion in this too. But it's also very anti-authority, anti-military, which also makes like a post-Trump era. And I again, I don't want to get too in like the weeds on that stuff, but I think it's very clear to see that, especially when you get to like the smaller moments of just like the actual love stories we're developing. Because The Last of Us is also about people finding love at the end of the world. That's my favorite stuff. 2 episodes in particular that I really liked that I know are ones people like but also really hate. It's the Bill and Frank one. Look, when you get Nick Offerman and you get Murray Bartlett just to do an hour of good acting on television, what more do you want? And then later on in the season when we have Bella Ramsey and Storm Reed doing their, I think that's based on like the DLC to the first game, I don't actually know. That's a really strong episode. You start to think like it's post-pandemic because these kids don't know basic things they would have learned if they grew up in normal times, much like kids who have survived in these couple of years. It's really fascinating. And that's how this show structures itself so well. It's like different levels of the game are each episode. We're not dragging anything out. It's like, oh, we don't need the ending to be like the longest episode. We can just have the ending be 40 minutes of solid action. Here you go, it works. When we go to this certain level, that is this episode. Very well structured, very impressed with how all of that worked out and maneuvered itself. And you know, something that does make me kind of happy, just on a more like personal note, is this project is one of the biggest things filmed in my province. Now, I do think this is going to be something we see a lot more of coming to Alberta, is like these types of projects coming here because we have like vast land and a lot of growth and shit to film. But I do like seeing specific moments in episodes where I'm like, yeah, I know that street. Yeah, I know that building. That's kind of just cool to see. I just like the idea that a big project like this can just be like filmed in my backyard. It's kind of exciting. It did make me happy. It's nice to see growth in this province for something other than just, you know, potentially doing a Yellowstone here, which is kind of exciting to see. Like, yeah, we could actually film other stuff. Cool. I do believe the film industry in Alberta is about to blow up between this and Skinamarink and Under the Banner of Heaven. It's pretty cool, and that excites me a lot. And just see like the sweeping shots where we're on practical locations. It all looks good. We just add the extra detail to the sets. That's very impressive. It all looks fantastic. It both looks true to the game and inherently its own thing. Does it look like they're walking through Boston or Chicago at some points? Not at all. It looks like it's Alberta, but that's okay. I can get behind that just because why not? I don't care that much about that. Now, I think the other big point of contention for some people was the casting announcements, because Bella Ramsey, I don't think was anybody's first choice to be Ellie. I think they did really good. Like, they really understood, like, this is how you tell the character. You have to make them look younger, make them look weaker, and when Ellie gets her bigger moments, that is when she can do bigger stuff as an actress, and it's really cool. Bella Ramsey, a really fun character actor. I hope they get a lot more work after this. I think they will, because this is a good, this like showcase of talent. You have to be sad, you have to be emotionless, you have to be angry at times, vulnerability while still being the wise ass. It's not something everybody can do, and they carry it pretty well on their shoulders. And again, Pedro Pascal just taking on any role he can where he has to be a father figure. I'll say something pretty controversial. This is the best he's ever acted. I don't hate a lot of his other works. I don't. But this is where he's like, no, this is the one where I am committed. My face is on screen the whole time. I am leading. I'm so used to being like the charismatic gunslinging, you know, fun-loving boy. What if I show people I'm actually talented? There are specific moments with Pedro in this show where he is given a lot to do, and he delivers on every conceivable level for that. It's really nice to see him actually act and just carry a show. And look, I like The Mandalorian. I don't know if he's doing all the heavy lifting in that show, but this one rests on his shoulders when he's a broken, tired man, desperately looking for that void filled with love, and he does find it eventually. It's kind of impressive. It's an interesting show. I don't love it as much as other people, maybe again because I don't have the full connection to the video game, but what I'm seeing here is just brilliant writing that lets its characters breathe and have moments to learn and grow and have quiet moments, which is not something we see in franchise television. Sometimes it's always just like beat, 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 keep going, keep going. But a lot of this is walking and being in the mood with the characters, which is a very impressive thing to see. I love that the creator was just like, this is cool. We're going to get the voice actors in to do certain roles because they're part of this franchise too. That's very exciting. And the fact that the show keeps growing and we're getting another season and potentially another few seasons, that's kind of cool. There's a lot to like in here. It is different enough from the standard zombie fare where it has something to say about the zombies. It's political if you want it to be. It's a fascinating show. I do not hate any of it. I just don't think I'm in love with it as other people. There are moments where I do love, just like the quiet, introverted moments where actors get to act and feel emotions, and how do you find this connection when you've been hardened by this world. It's the little points of love that bring you back to it. Very cool, very impressive, and it looks great. And hey, I've seen where they were filming it, so that's pretty exciting too. I do like that. That kind of stuff does excite me. Again, it's in my backyard. That's pretty cool. I don't get to see that often. Television. We can make good television sometimes. You just got to get the Chernobyl boy to do something. You know? What do you guys think is going to be next, though? Like, you think they're going to learn the right lessons from The Last of Us, or are they just going to be like, oh, we got to do Conker's Bad Fur Day or something? Probably a Call of Duty movie. I'd have to imagine they're going to do like a Call of Duty show or something. Look, it's better than Halo. It's probably better than the Tomb Raider movies. I don't know. It's probably the best one, but again, who's to say? Mario comes out in 3 weeks. Maybe that'll be the best one. So, The Last of Us Season 1, I am going to give a 7 out of 10. Thank you all for watching this review. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Hive. And I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.